my experience, a lot of people who are Satanists are ex-Christians. It seems like if you're really into it, you get really out of it, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, or at least to me, at least people who are Satanists are hyper compassionate people who have really examined right and wrong and are trying to do what is the most right.
Welcome to Breaking Stereotypes with Todd and Tootsie. Today we are joined by 60 Seconds with Satan. That's her TikTok name, and she uses her TikTok account to discuss her ideology with atheism and Satanism. 60 Seconds with Satan is also in a polyamorous marriage where one of her partners is a Christian. And so we will be taking a deep dive into all of this. But first, I'd just like to remind our guests to hit the like button and subscribe to our new channel, as it helps the YouTube algorithm and will help our channel to grow.
So I'd like to say hello.
Hello. Nice to be talking to you today.
Nice to be talking to you too. And that's your intro, right? With all of your TikToks.
Oh, actually, yes, I do say hello at the beginning of all my. Yeah, it's true.
Yes.
Yeah, I've only got 60 seconds, so it's got to be a short greeting.
It's got to be a short greeting, exactly. So, what are the stereotypes of being a Satanist?
I mean, you could probably guess everything you've seen in movies, right? That we're devil worshippers, or that we do, blood circles, animal sacrifices, all the evil things.
Okay, and what is, so I assume you're saying none of those things are true or actually happen.
Yeah, well, not as far as I know. So Satanism, it's kind of complicated. It's got quite a bit of a history. So I specifically follow the Temple of Satan, and that is a non-theistic religion. So we don't worship a god at all. We don't even think that Satan exists. It's more of like a symbolic thing. So all that stuff, I've kind of thought about it, like, why does everyone have that perception of Satanists being like evil or devil worshippers or something? And I guess I kind of thought that maybe the church used Satanism as kind of like something to be against, I suppose. They say like the people who are evil, they must be worshiping the devil. So they've just kind of thrown that up. But that's not to say that people were actually doing that. If you know about like the satanic panic or like witch hunts, people can be accused of those things, but that doesn't mean that that's what they necessarily believe. The way that I believe in Satanism now, it's actually a pretty recent thing. It's only been around since about 2012. So it's kind of actually understandable that people have these misconceptions, and I think it's just because it's a bit of a new thing, actually.
Okay, so I understand there are 7 tenets that are part of, and what is the name of, you said it's a satanic temple, is that right? Okay,
yeah,
and these are the 7 tenets of that.
Yes, that's correct. So the other one would be the Church of Satan, and it's a little bit different. I don't know a whole lot about that sect, but I know that it's a little bit maybe not as non-theistic. They might believe a little bit more in energy and crystals. So the version that I believe is totally non-theistic, totally non-supernatural. So it's more of a humanist movement, which, yeah, if you want me to read the tenets, you can tell.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So they're not too long. We got tenet 1. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. 2. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. 3. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. 4. The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. Willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego your own. 5. Beliefs should conform to the best scientific understanding of the world. We should take care to never distort scientific fact to fit our beliefs. 6. People are fallible. If we make mistakes, we should do our best to rectify it and resolve any harm that we may have caused. And 7. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. That's it.
Okay. So for me, hearing that list, it honestly sounds like the platform of the Democratic Party. Just kind of, just more of a philosophical idea than a religion. So I guess the first question I have is, why is it necessarily to be a religion if there is no God and there are tenets?
I think it's much more of a symbolic thing. So I think there are practical reasons for why it's religion. A lot of things are you take some of the pieces of religion and you kind of convert it to your own. So I do think that there's benefit in some of the things that religions do, like weekly meetups with people, that are like-minded to you. I think there's some power in prayer for yourself. Not that a God is doing anything, but just in like being thankful and like rituals and things like that. So it's kind of like all the best parts of religion, but without the God.
Okay.
But I think there's also a lot of social justice aspects as well. So it's kind of like you can get your foot in the door of the legal system. We do a lot of work with making sure that separation of church and state happens. So like I think like especially in the United States, Christians get kind of a lot of favoritism. They get a lot of exemptions. So we're saying if you're going to let Christians do this, then you have to let the Satanists do this as well. Some work in that I think is good.
Hmm.
So like under the umbrella of religious freedom.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Like at the capital of Michigan, there was a nativity set in the Capitol grounds. The Satanists came and petitioned, and they got a snaketivity put on the grounds as well. Yeah, because they're like, well, if they can have their religious, monument, then why can't we have ours? And they let them do it. So I think that that's a win, but oftentimes it seems like when we come up in those kind of legal battles, they just back down. They say, okay, no one's getting anything because they don't want, the Satans putting their
Hmm.
snake stuff out, I guess.
Hmm.
And it's not that the snake stuff is bad or offensive or anything. I think it's just the idea of it being from Satan makes people uncomfortable.
Hmm. But it sounds like that, it's from your sect, it's a complete misconception because it's not from Satan, because there is no Satan, right?
But I mean, a Christian would see it differently.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So I think that's the thing. It's hard for them to say like, oh, you're taking the name of the evil one in our religion, but you don't think it exists. Like I think that sometimes is hard for them to understand.
Is shock value a big part of it
A
as
little
far
bit.
as like, yeah, putting
I think
the
for
imagery out?
some people more than others. For me, I like it because it starts a conversation. When someone sees you wearing a pentagram, or I wear this upside down cross on my face sometimes, and people are like, "How can you do that?" Because I think for some people they think like, "Oh, that's so sacrilegious. Like that is blasphemy. How can you just so openly be doing blasphemy?" And so yeah, it's a good way to start a conversation, to be honest. So.
Mhm.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So let's get into why you want to, I guess, participate in the blasphemy, right? It kind of goes into your backstory a little bit.
Mhm.
So how were you raised?
Very Christian, extremely
Okay.
Christian. Yeah, both my
Mhm.
parents, very devout. We went to church multiple times a week. Um, I believed it as myself too. I was a very strong Christian. I was planning on going into ministry. I was planning on being a overseas missionary. So, yeah, I
Hmm.
was very much involved in all of the things you think about with that kind of
Hmm.
religion.
So you must have gotten baptized and then went through confirmation,
Oh yeah, yeah, I did that.
all
Gave
all
my
that
life
stuff.
to Jesus.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Said the prayers.
Yeah. So can you walk us through what happened that you decided I need to walk away from this?
Well, it was quite a process. So I would say it was a lot of different cracks that happened at different periods. And the ultimate reason why I left my faith was because the more I read the Bible, the more I just thought that God was deeply immoral. So I really wrestled with the fact that, like, I don't know what exists out there, but if the God that does exist out there is like, well, it just, it was hard for me to think that I had to worship that God in order to avoid torture, essentially.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And just the more I learned about the Bible and how it was constructed, I just thought I didn't have a good foundation for why I should believe things to be true, and that even if this God did exist, this God wasn't worthy of worship. And eventually, I just fell away from it. Over years, though, I will say it wasn't just a moment; it was a lot of
Hmm.
thought.
Mm. Can you speak to some of the ideas of what was immoral that bothered you? Because I think this is what has emerged in some of your TikTok videos later. So could you tell us about that?
Oh, so much.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you think about the Bible. is pretty misogynistic. You know, I had a lot of issues with its portrayal of women as just being cheerleaders for men, being the helpers of men. I've never seen myself in that position. Um, it also seems to me like the Bible supports slavery. There's definitely some verses in there, um, as well as homosexuality. Obviously, the Bible talks about that being a sin. And I actually think that the biggest evil is God dishing out punishments or rewards based on belief. Because to me, belief is not a choice. You're either convinced of something or you're not. And like I couldn't just choose to believe in this God if I wanted to. I'd have to have evidence that would convince me. I'm not in control of that. So that to me, that is the biggest thing. I cannot get over that because I think I'm a pretty understanding, compassionate person, and it's hard for me to think that if you just make a mistake in this lifetime, just because you were kind of given a crappy hand, maybe you're born into poverty, or you have a brain that's just kind of wired for anger or drugs or something, and then God is just like, well, you screwed up, so hell forever for you. Like this lifetime is like this, eternity's forever. How can any this amount of time be worth eternal punishment?
Mhm.
And
Well, oh, it's okay. Sorry. Well, the other thing too that, just remind me of that is, you know, one of the things is if you essentially live a really good life, then meaning you don't harm other people, so on and so forth, and you don't believe, the God of the Bible would say you need to go to hell, where if somebody was in that exact same position as far as on their deathbed, but they had lived a really harmful life, but they gave their life to Jesus or whomever, then they could get into heaven, right? That's kind of what the scripture says. And that doesn't
Well,
really make a
yeah.
lot of sense.
And even think about my own situation. Like here, I have examined this God and determined it to be evil and said I would not follow an evil God. Like, how evil would I be if I decided to follow a God I fully believe to be evil just so I wouldn't be punished? I feel like that would actually be the more evil option for me. So that whole
Mhm.
system, it doesn't make sense to me.
but there was a significant part of your life where you truly believed that all the time the potential of you going to hell or, any little thing you did, you sort of really took it to heart
Oh,
that
yeah.
you
I
might
took
be
it to the
causing
extreme. Yeah,
your
for sure.
eternal damnation, right?
Mhm.
Can you give
I,
us some examples of when you felt like you might have done something wrong that would have
well,
caused that?
I think part of it is that I was really a dedicated believer. I've read the Bible, I think over 7 times. I've memorized whole books of it. I used to
Wow.
do fasting, spend days in prayer. Like I was in.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people don't realize like the Bible says belief is all you need, but then there's also like if you really believed, you would do these works. And then there's other little things like if you're rich, um, a rich person, that's what did they say, a camel is more likely to go through an eye of a needle than a rich person to go to heaven. And like if you live in America, you're probably richer than most of the world. And so I was like,
Mhm.
just by status of me living here, I'm likely going to go to hell unless I give literally everything up. That's why I wanted to be a missionary. Is because I was like, I don't know the rules here. They seem so unclear. So I need to do everything because eternity, I think I understood eternity. And I was like, I cannot risk anything, you know?
Mhm.
Because this life doesn't matter. I have to only be living for the afterlife. I kind of realize now that it was actually a pretty selfish status because I really only cared about myself. You know, if I was following the things in the Bible, it wasn't because I thought they were right or wrong. It was only because I was just so scared of this God that might punish me if I got it wrong.
Mhm.
And I
Makes
think
sense.
that for me is why Satanism is really freeing because like I was in chains when I was a Christian. I was just chained to this message. I felt like I had a gun to my head all the time of this God telling me what I could or could not do. And so for me, now being a Satanist, I feel like I can take that power back. And some of these rituals and things that I do, and it's kind of a way for me to say I'm doing what is moral, and I don't need someone else to tell me what I have to do. That makes
Mhm.
sense.
Sure. So did you, when you first decided that Christianity was not a fit for you anymore, did you just go straight atheist or did you go to, find something like Satanism to replace that? Or was that a process as well?
No, well, so what happened was I was probably 23 or 24 when I became an atheist, and that was over a process. It was probably from the time when I was 21 to 24. And then I became an atheist, and I pretty immediately became a hardcore atheist. What they call the angry atheist, that was me.
Okay.
You probably followed some of those stereotypes. But Satanism, I first heard about it on a podcast, and I was really intrigued. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I thought, well, I have to read the book first. I have to learn about this before I can just say that I am. So it wasn't until I actually read the book, then I said, okay, yeah, this works. So then I decided that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to me, there's like a little bit of an irony in there where, you're rejecting religion and saying, I don't want anything to do with it. And then you're finding something and you're saying, well, I got to read the book. And like, did you ever have this feeling of like, well, I'm just getting into another religion again, and it's going to have, rules and rituals and, different things that,
But I make up all the rules. That's the difference.
okay.
So I guess maybe in some sense, I think maybe because of my deep indoctrination into religion, that I'm just kind of attracted to that kind of style, but without the chains.
Mhm.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about the Satanist church? So like if you would go there once a week, like what day of the week on it, and what goes on there? We're just really interested.
Well, it's up to everyone. So just like you don't have to do anything. You get to do whatever you want. And I'm sure there are some Satanists that aren't a part of any groups. So they just are just in themselves. I'm a part of a Facebook group. They don't meet, they just meet online. And they
Okay.
have it's typically on Sundays actually, which is kind
Okay.
of cool, I guess. It's just a Zoom meeting between people. I know there are meetups. There's the Satan Con that happens once a year, and I think that their official home is in Salem, Massachusetts. So there is
Okay.
some official meetups, but it's more online. At
Okay.
least
So
during the pandemic, for sure.
Mhm.
on the Zoom meetings, does everybody have different backgrounds like yours?
I don't know that everybody has a green screen. So.
So what's your understanding of like what a service would be like? If you went on Sundays and there was a whole bunch of people, would they be all kind of dressed up like you are right now, or would they just be dressed normally? And then, what's your understanding of what would go on?
Well, it would be a dream, to be honest, if we could all
Like-
come in like hooded robes. Like, that sounds amazing.
So
I
almost
know.
like cosplay, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I know that they do have some ritual ceremonies. One I'd really love to do someday is a debaptism. So it's sort of like a baptism. They you walk up to like an altar or something, but then instead of baptizing you with water, they use a blow dryer and they dry you off. So you get unbaptized.
Uh-huh.
So I'd love to do that someday. That sounds really fun. Um, but I'm not exactly sure what they would do with one in person. I know that there are some like atheist churches where essentially they just have a self-help kind of message, or like make the world better. You just kind of all
Mhm.
gather together and talk about your lives, and I don't know how things are going. I think it's less of like a church service than it is more just people hanging out together.
Okay. And so I'm wondering, like, what are some of the topics that you talk about? Is it really, just kind of supporting each other, or is it, almost kind of like a support group as far as are most of the people ex-Christians? How would you break that down?
That's hard for me to say. I think from my experience, a lot of people who are Satanists are ex-Christians. It seems like if you're really into it, you get really out of it, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, So, or at least to me, at least people who are Satanists are hyper compassionate people who have really examined right and wrong and are trying to do what is the most right. Because like just
Mhm.
being an atheist, that is just a statement of what you don't believe. But being a Satanist is a statement of what you do believe of this ultimate morality. Seeing Satan not as like the devil, but as the one who is the more righteous choice. Like if Satan rebelled against God. So
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit as far as,
sure.
what your empathy towards Satan?
Well, I think there are a lot of different stories about Satan, and Satan's not really in the Bible a whole lot. I don't know if that's kind of a misconception. There's a couple of different names for different characters. We're not sure if they're always the same. But kind of like the romantic Satan is said to be someone who was an angel and then refused to worship God and then was cast out of heaven. Um, and so we kind of see it more as like Satan was equal to God, and then God said, "You need to worship me," and Satan said, "Why should I if we're equals?" and then was cast out for that. So it's kind of like he was the one who rebelled against the tyranny that started everything, I suppose.
hmm
So that's what we say, that he is not someone who's evil, but someone who stood up to authority and demanded things to be more just, I suppose.
hmm
It sounds to me, I don't know if this metaphor is accurate, but kind of like Wicked, where it's like telling this other story from the Wizard of Oz. Like, we're going to tell the story of the witch and why you should, empathize with that character versus, the other story that you were told.
Sure. Yeah, the TV
Yeah.
show Lucifer too kind of goes into that, like, who is the devil? Why does it manage hell and like all of that stuff? So I love that series. I thought that as a
hmm
Satan.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Well, but the ironic thing is that you don't even believe that that entity exists, right?
No, but
And so
no,
it's
but
just
I think it's useful as a symbol.
mhm, okay. Um, do you get concerned about having any blowback from that, or have you experienced blowback from that?
Oh yeah, yeah. You read the comments on my channel.
Okay.
That's fine. Even just being an atheist. I mean, I live in a majority Christian country, so most people just really have a hard time wrapping their minds around when I make certain accusations like God is evil. I think it blows minds. Um,
Mhm,
so yeah, yeah, I do. I've read all kinds of comments of people. A lot of people just don't believe me. Think, oh, you worship the devil, or you believe in Satan, therefore you believe in Jesus, and they're just kind of misunderstanding my message. So I'm trying to be really clear when I talk about it in my videos, but it's a process. Like I'm still trying to work out how to break some of those stereotypes.
Mhm.
mhm,
So, what is the motivation for making the videos and putting out a message, especially if you are getting all this blowback?
Well, I think for me, it's a little bit like therapy. Because I said I was so into Christianity, and it's actually done a lot of harm to me over the years. And so sometimes making these videos is my way of processing the way that I used to believe things, and also kind of telling the things that I wish I had known myself when I was a Christian. I don't know
mhm,
that it would have made a difference, but I like it seems to me important to get that message out, and it seems to me also like my way of repenting, suppose, for the Christian I used to be, because I was an evangelical Christian too. Like I spread that message. And
mhm,
so I feel like I might have done harm when I did that. And so this is my way of kind of spreading the unharm, I suppose.
mhm. Can
You're
you
an evangelical Satanist now.
Yeah, I guess so.
can you talk a little bit more about some of the harm you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, it comes from a lot of different angles. I think the first crack in my Christianity was when I was a teenager. I was really into animal rights. I became a vegan when I was 15. And it really upset me that the Bible really doesn't talk about animal rights at all. And so that
Mm,
like destroyed me. The idea that people could be torturing animals, but that wasn't considered a sin and they might never be punished for that. And I was just kind of
mhm,
like the things that were really important to me, these animal rights, it seemed like they just didn't matter to this God. And even like the kosher practices in the Old Testament, like they seemed like they were unnecessarily cruel to these animals for no reason.
mhm. And
So
it's
that was kind of my first crack. Definitely the view of women in the Bible was very upsetting to me. I actually really was upset about the fact that I had been born a woman. I thought that I was like a lesser being, I suppose. Just because if you read the Bible, I mean, Jesus was a man, all of his disciples were men, and I know he had women following him, but what to do what? Take care of him, feed him, again, these helper roles. And I didn't want to be a helper, I wanted to be a leader. And it just seemed like there wasn't a place for me. The Bible even says women couldn't talk in the church, have to have their heads covered. And I was just like, what? What is wrong with me? Why was I born this way? Like I was just born a second class citizen. Um, and I think it really caused me to try and like reevaluate who I am. Like I tried to make myself fit into this mold that the Bible gave. And I think I just really was not true to myself for so many
mhm,
Was it ever an option for you to just sort of not take the Bible so literally and kind of have that separation that a lot of people do, where it's like, okay, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
years.
This stuff is really old and outdated. Was that ever an option on the table or?
No, because to me, like the Bible was our message from God. How else do you know? Like personal revelation is a horrible method to come to the truth. I talk about that a lot in my videos, but um, it just seemed like if God is all powerful, he must have be getting his message to us somehow. And if some parts of the Bible were not true, then how do we know which parts were not true? You know, if it says, you know, oh, the parts about women being second class citizens, those parts aren't true. So I would say, well, what about the parts about Jesus loving us? Maybe those are the parts that are not true. Like you can't just pick and choose which things in the Bible are true based on your own personal, you know, convictions. Then you're basically building a god of your own morality, and then you're not really concerned with what's actually existing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very concerned with truth, if you can't tell.
Yes, sure. What's interesting though is that I think if you talk to somebody who would consider themselves a Christian, their values would probably align more than with yours than you know, just because you know, again, it's I think most Christians probably don't read the Bible, you know, kind of cherry pick it and you know, kind of see things like do unto others, um, and you know, kind of run with that. And you know, so it's one of those things where again, I would think that it's because of the fact that you have the personality and the cognitive structure that you get to the point where when you read into something and you have that background, you really took it all in. And would you say though that again most Christians would be as deep into it as you were?
Not most. I mean, I went. I've met some of them. I went to when I was
Hmm.
training to be a missionary. That's what I was surrounded with. So I've definitely been with people who are in it, and even that was to me. I was just like, look at all these people who think they're Christians, and they're gonna be real surprised when they get to heaven and realize that they didn't do enough to get there.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I was definitely. I mean, yeah, I was very concerned with what's right and wrong. I think maybe what makes me different than Christians, though, this is a big part of my satanic beliefs, is that I do think that belief in a God causes harm. That's one of the reasons why I'm so into Satanism, is because I don't know a lot about the Muslim faith, I will say. I do also think that faith causes harm, but I know a lot about Christianity. That's what I talk about. A lot of times when I talk to Christians, their sense of morality is from this God, and they think that that God is perfect. So if this God asks them to murder someone, that is the most perfect thing to do. And to me, that is just really, really kind of scary because that means that we can do immoral things in the name of morality. And then you can basically justify anything, especially if those messages are coming to you through personal revelation, which again can mean anything.
Hmm.
A lot of
What it
times you
will,
can't justify if you're getting a message from a god or if it's just a message in your head. So that was
sure,
something I really struggled with when I was a Christian. Was I was terrified that God was going to ask me to do immoral or crazy things, like God asked Abraham to kill his son. I thought maybe God might ask me someday to kill like my family, my pets, um, and that if I didn't do that, that was just a sign that I wasn't a true Christian.
hmm, kind of
So I
kind of looked.
basically, yeah, I lived my life in fear because of that.
Hmm.
Did you
Yeah,
ever?
I was going to say that kind of reminds me of the book of Job, right?
Yeah.
You know that and that. um can you talk a little bit about your perspective on that?
Well, I mean, so the book of Job, if you don't know, is God and Satan were looking at the earth and they saw this man named Job, and God was like, look, he loves me so much. He's a great follower of me. And Satan says, well, he only loves you because he's so wealthy and you treat him so well. So God said, well, go ahead and take that away from him and we'll see if he still worships me. And so Satan does in the story, and the man still worships God. So the message is supposed to be that, like, you worship God through the good and the bad times. But to me, that just shows a deeply immoral God who is
Hmm.
just making bets, apparently with his nemesis, and just allowing people to suffer for, I don't know, if he's
Well,
all
Joe,
knowing, he should have already known they don't need to place these bets. So
yeah.
yeah, that seems awful to me. Even the idea that God might give you cancer to test you or to test your faith. Just like, is this a moral, loving God?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Did you ever talk to your parents about the fear that you had and the stress that it was causing? And I'm curious if they were super strict and that's sort of tied into it.
I would say I probably didn't talk to my parents a whole lot about this. I've never been very close with my parents, and I kept a lot of these feelings to myself, partly because I thought that I was the one who was wrong.
Mhm.
Okay. And
And were they as deep of believers as you were?
Probably not. As I
okay.
told you, I was really into it.
Yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
I mean, they were pretty strict, but I mean, they weren't Mormons or something. Mormons can be crazy strict.
Mhm.
hmm So what did I think about your situation now?
I don't know if they even know. Since becoming polyamorous, my parents have mostly cut me out of their life.
Hmm.
I actually don't have much of a relationship with anyone.
Okay.
That must have been hard.
It kind of was, but I kind of have seen it coming for a long time. I think it's hard for them to understand, especially seeing who I was when I was a teenager. I also came out as pansexual, and so that was very hard for them to understand. They're like, "We had a straight Christian child. Like, what happened to you?" And I think a lot of it is because I never let them know a lot of the things that were in me. Like they knew. I actually struggled when I was a teenager with some self-harm, and I was in counseling for that. So they knew stuff was going on, but they didn't know exactly what it was.
Okay.
When did you come out to them as pansexual?
um, I I'm trying to think exactly when. It was a bit unclear.
But like, were you a teenager when that happened?
No, oh
Oh,
no. I
okay.
didn't
That
tell
was
them
recent.
until I was probably 25 or so. And
Okay.
not until I
Okay.
was actually in a relationship with a woman.
Okay.
Okay.
So that was bad enough. Then you added in an additional partner, and that kind of pushed them
Well, that
kind
was
of
how I
over the
came
edge.
out to them was
Yeah.
like, I
Uh-huh.
have a
Okay.
partner who is living with me and my spouse.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, here I
Yeah.
am.
And that was
Yeah.
too much for them. And how did they respond?
I think that they were very confused. They really questioned my relationship with my spouse because they would say, if you really loved him, then why would you have another partner? Um, and I think what they don't understand is like I could have divorced my husband, and gotten another partner if that is what I wanted, but I never stopped loving my husband. I have always loved him.
Hmm.
And so
Mhm.
having another partner doesn't mean I love him less. I still love him just as much as I always have. I think that's the part that's hard for them to understand.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
now your husband is the one who's Christian, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I know. Isn't
So,
that crazy?
yeah. So how does that work? And why don't you have a reality show yet?
It just does. My husband and I, we get along awesome. We really don't argue about anything. He kind of rolls his eyes at me sometimes. I'm very extra. That's what he says. He's very
Mhm.
traditional. So, and he understands that I have this side of me, and I think that's part of the reason why polyamory works is because I do some of these more extreme, crazy things that maybe he's not into, but with people
Mhm.
who are more into it.
Does he
Mhm.
have like a right side up cross under his eye?
Yes, tattooed. No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Uh-huh.
That would be a cute couple's outfit.
Uh-huh. So do you guys ever talk about religion?
Yeah, it comes up
Okay.
sometimes. He
Uh-huh.
knows I make the videos and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I would actually say he agrees with a lot of the things I say. He's definitely more of like a new age Christian, where he would say that he doesn't think the Bible is 100% true. He's
Mhm.
basically like, yeah, I think Jesus exists, and I believe in him, and I'm gonna go to heaven, and I should be a good person. So that's it.
Does
Okay.
he think you're going to go to heaven?
I
Yeah.
don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Mhm.
I think he would also say that he doesn't necessarily believe there is a hell. I also don't think there's a lot of support in the Bible for a hell. I know that a lot of people don't know that. But in Revelation it says that non-believers will be annihilated. That doesn't mean they go to a hell. That just means maybe they cease to exist, which is bad. I'd rather cease to exist than be tortured forever. So.
Right.
Yeah. Better option for sure. And so, well, you hear a lot of Christians too, who are the, I don't know, the hardcore ones, I guess, would say that if there's any bad act that goes on, like the whole 20th century was driven by Satan. Do you know what I mean? And so it's something that um have you ever gotten to discussions or debates with people saying that, like, if if Satan was driving the Holocaust or something like that, then where was God to fight that?
Well, where was God? I mean, if he's all
Yeah.
powerful, why is he just sitting there and allowing all this bad stuff to happen? So
Mhm.
that's what I would say. I mean, people, I think you just need something to blame. So when bad things happen, it's hard
Mhm.
for people to comprehend, like, maybe bad things just happen and there is no reason. So instead, it's more comforting to say there is a reason and it's the devil, literal evil.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And now your second partner is agnostic,
Yep.
or
Yep.
okay.
Mhm.
And so do the three of you have, discussions, or, how does that piece fit in?
No, I get it.
Mhm.
It's kind of surprising that this doesn't really come up a whole lot. We come
Mhm.
home, play video games, and
Mhm.
go play ping pong. I don't know. It's just we're living our life.
Right.
Mhm.
So you're not 24/7 with this.
No,
Yeah.
and I mean, I know I do make these videos every day, but honestly, they only take me like 15 minutes. It's a very small portion of my life.
Mhm. Yeah. So we didn't ask you this in our pre-screen, but we assumed it because of our scheduling. But so you have a job,
I do, yes.
and you don't have to tell us specifically where you work, but can you tell us kind of what you do? And also, has this ever come up in work? And if it is, how has it affected you?
It does not come up in work. I stock grocery store shelves specifically. I can tell you, I work for Nabisco, and I love my company. Man, props to Nabisco. They really treat us
Okay.
really well. And no, I mean it doesn't come up. I don't work with other employees, so I don't typically talk too much to any other. I mostly work alone.
Okay.
So no, I dress a little weird. I don't do the upside down cross while I'm at work.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And what about friends? Like, do you have friends that are just completely, they know, about this, or friends that don't know?
Yeah, I'd say people know. I have
Okay.
some friends that are Satanists also, and some friends that are Christian, actually. I just met a guy in my improv. I'm taking an improv class. I'm one of those people.
I
So
am
is
too.
she.
Yeah.
But he told me that he is a Christian, and I was like, that is very interesting. So we had
Mhm.
coffee and we talked about it, and yeah, I would say his views are very similar to like what my husband's are, very new agey. He also doesn't believe in a hell, so it was a really good conversation, and I was like, I got no qualms with what you believe. I don't think you're right, but at least I don't think your beliefs are causing harm. Not that like I'm the judge, like I don't get to just judge people
Mhm.
for bad or harm, but
Well,
like I'm
base.
I'm friends with Christians. I have Christian friends, and I have friends that probably don't think about religion at all. So
Mhm.
not at all.
Well, I mean, based on the tenets that you told us,
Mm.
it's really kind of hard to argue with those, right? I mean, out of those tenets, is there any one specifically that people would say like I don't agree with?
Maybe the offend one. I don't know if people are like,
Hmm.
why would you? Because I will say Satanists, it can be offensive, right? That some people can see my cross or the snaketivity and be like, who are mocking Christianity. Um, and I think mocking is a strong word. It's more like satire. We're trying to show the flaws, say,
Hmm.
be equal among all people, and trying to like point at things, I suppose.
Okay.
Outside of your TikTok videos, do you try to convert people, or I guess deconvert people, in person, or, do you just keep your message to TikTok?
I mostly keep it to TikTok. I do not start a conversation, but if someone else wants to have the conversation, I'm happy to have it. Mormons are always messaging. I don't know. They probably message everybody, but I
Uh-huh.
respond. So,
Okay.
um, so yeah, no, I would not just walk up to someone and tell them. But if you walked up to me and asked me, I would be happy to talk about it. I don't
Hmm.
think it's so important like to convert people to Satanism. For me, Satanism is like a personal thing. It's what I
Hmm.
kind of do to go through my past trauma, and it's a symbol of like what I want the world to be like. But you could just be a humanist and really be doing the same things. So
Yeah, because that's what I was picking up, is that essentially it's just humanism,
yeah,
really, with the shock value of the Satanist part. But
yeah. There's no
again,
reason to convert to Satanism unless it sounds good to you.
mhm.
So given that, do you think this is something you'll stick with, or do you think, it will run its course, and you might move on to something else?
I think I'm gonna stick with it. I have a lot of different messages though, so kind of the overall theme I have is just don't let your beliefs cause harm. And so I challenge a lot of different beliefs. Even I haven't talked about it a lot on my channel, but the polyamory and the veganism that you just live your life, and if you are not hurting other people just because you're living differently, that doesn't mean that you're evil or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it might just broaden. I'll talk about more than just Satanism and atheism, but maybe just like being a good human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's where that kind of offend part comes in that you mentioned, where it's like just by nature of your polyamorous marriage, you might be offending someone, but you're still going to do it because it's right for you.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what the offensive thing. It's not that you're trying to hurt people, but sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
just you living your life is offensive to other people, and that doesn't mean you should change to make other people comfortable. Like we are all
Mm-hmm.
responsible for our own feelings, and so if something
Mm-hmm.
offends you, you need to change yourself or learn to deal with that situation rather than forcing the other person to change.
Mm-hmm. And so can we talk a little bit about your TikTok? You said you kind of started as therapy, and
Mhm.
it's something that you said it takes about 15 minutes every day, but that's probably, is that just the filming process, or what about the developmental process? Like deciding what you're going to talk about, like how do you come up with your content?
Well, I have a note in my phone. It's called Satan stuff, and every time I get an idea for a video, I just like jot it down in there. So I've got a whole list of different ideas that come from all different kinds of things. A lot of times I do responses from Christians. Christians, like I'm always in conversations with Christians. They just message. They love that,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'll take them. The reasons why they think they're or their reasons for their God, I suppose, and then I make those. But yeah, no, I
Okay.
try to not let it take a lot of time because I actually used to have a TikTok channel before this. And yeah, I was on TikTok all the time. I would spend hours making these elaborate videos. And I had a lot of success then too, but man, you can only spend so much time on your little rectangle phone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, that could be harmful, right?
Yeah, and I'm busy. I've got other stuff to do. I do some stand-up comedy as well locally, and I'm a
Okay.
drag performer. So like, I just don't have
Okay.
Oh, wow.
time
Wow. You've
whenever
got a
I'm
lot
doing
going on.
videos.
You got a personality on you.
Does your stand-up focus, do you use religion and Satanism and all of that in your act?
I haven't talked about Satanism yet, but I definitely do some Christian mocking.
Okay.
Honest, I try to be
Okay.
tasteful. I did a
Uh-huh.
show the other day, and the only thing I said bad was that Christians were no fun. That was all I said. I think I said
Uh-huh.
I booed them. I can well, uh, I I could talk about the joke, but I don't know.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Well, it actually takes more. So I actually donated a kidney. I know this is a whole nother
Oh
story. I
wow.
Wow.
donated a kidney about a
This
year
kid's
ago.
getting better, better, and better.
To a stranger who actually turned out to be a Christian. So that was kind of interesting.
Okay.
Whoa.
Uh-huh.
So I did some stand up talking about what it was like to be able to meet him. And that's why I said
Uh-huh.
like he has one big character flaw, and that was that he's a Christian. Who
Hmm.
that was my joke, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
So I was trying not to be mean or disrespectful, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What if your kidney made him turn Satanist?
That is
Like that
part
would.
of what my joke was. I said, is he now 1% Satanist,
Right.
or did he convert the kidney and now do I have like a claim to heaven? Like I can get to
Oh.
like my kidney's with its other dad right now, but man, it loves Jesus.
Uh-huh.
That was your little backup plan, little safety net.
Wow. So was somebody that you didn't know?
Nope, I did not know. Nope.
You just decided that you were gonna donate your kidney.
Yes, well, I kind of learned that you don't need both of them to live. Actually, having only one
Mm-hmm.
kidney is not associated with a shortened lifespan. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, everybody's walking around with two kidneys. You only need one. You're fine with just one. And someone else
Mm-hmm.
might die if they don't get your kidney. So,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I actually began to feel kind of selfish. Like, why do I have this if I don't need it and someone else needs it? So, it was quite a process. If anyone's interested, I'd really encourage it. It was great. It's free. You get a very extensive medical checkup if
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's something that was deeply meaningful to me. I feel like I'll always carry that around, the fact that I did this. And it wasn't just him that got the kidney. I don't know if you know how the kidney exchange works.
No.
So I give him a kidney, and then he's got his wife gave her kidney to someone else, so it starts a chain. So then her
Oh.
kidney will go to
Okay.
someone else, who will give their kidney to someone else. But because I gave the first one without receiving anything in return, was able to start that chain.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. I don't know how many people got a kidney from mine. Hopefully a lot.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah, and I guarantee saved a lot of lives by making that one act.
Yeah, I hope so.
Do you stay in touch with him?
Yeah, we're Facebook friends.
Mhm. Wow, it's amazing.
And what about your drag performing? Do you want to tell us about your drag name or?
Sure. I perform as creature type human, and I do, it's all like probably comedy. That's a lot of what you would say. I do a lot of really ridiculous things. If you'll see in my videos, I'm very extra. I love to shock people. I love to do crazy things. So like I drop kicked a baby doll in one of my shows, just because the song was kind of about parenthood and it was appropriate. So I mean, when else can you do that except for on stage?
Hmm. And so if you're a female and you're in drag, how does that work? Sorry for my ignorance.
No, it's all right. Yeah, so I perform as a king.
Okay.
So normally, like, if you would be a person who is male and performs as a female queen, but really
Mhm.
nowadays drag is just anything. You can be any gender and you can perform as any gender. It doesn't.
Okay. Okay. So you like being on stage, and it's something that which probably is another reason that you put yourself out there so much on TikTok as
Yeah, I
well.
do. I also do
Hmm.
improv, stand up, drag. Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
love being on stage. I'm a performer at heart.
Have you ever
Hmm.
thought about two prov with the Christian that you met? And I feel like you could market that very well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I should talk to him about that.
And so what is kind of your plan for your TikTok channel? Like what is your hope for it?
Well, I just want to keep it growing. I don't know that I'm not trying to be famous or something. Like that would be
Mhm.
cool, but not because I want to be famous, but mostly because I think I have a message that people hear. I think from my experience, most people just don't think all that much about their beliefs. So there's a lot of people out there who just say, "Yeah, Jesus, belief, all right, I got it." And they never really thought about like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm for or against homosexuality? And like, what are my reasons? So if I can just get people to be thinking about their beliefs more, I think that's a win for me. And I recognize in my comments, I get a lot of negative comments, and that doesn't bother me so much because the person that I care most about is the person who saw my video, did nothing, and then just walked away and thought about it later. If I
Mhm.
can just get someone to think about it, then maybe, that doesn't mean they have to convert to atheism. Maybe that just means they have a belief that'll cause less harm. That's the goal, I suppose.
Sure. And so if you had to think about your comments, it, are the majority of them negative? Is
Yeah.
there a lot of positive? I'll go.
Yeah, the majority are negative. Crazy. I mean, I
So you
never
must have
thought
developed a thick skin, right?
a little bit. Well, for me, it doesn't bother me because I'm very confident. Like I know that what I'm doing is right. I'm not trying to hurt people. I'm a deeply compassionate person. Like I actually really, really care about people not being harmed. And it does kind of like sometimes it just makes me sad. I think a lot of people comment on my appearance, which I think is interesting. Like yesterday was International Women's Day, and someone was like, "Wash your hair," and I was just like, "But why did you come here? Why did you come
Hmm.
here to ignore my content and comment on my appearance?"
Hmm.
A lot of people will say, they'll just tell me I'm wrong. They'll pray for me. Some people are mean. Kind of surprising too, because probably a lot of the people who are posting negative comments are Christians. So why are they being so mean? It's not part of their faith.
Hmm.
Do you get any positive comments or like have people DM'd you and said that that you help them?
Yeah, well, I have talked to a couple of people. They said it's like really refreshing to hear my point of view and to see other Satanists. Especially other Satanists will message me and be like, finally, someone who understands.
Hmm.
So that's good. And yeah, I do definitely get positive comments. I love it when atheists will comment on other Christians' comments and say things. So I don't always have time to go through the comments, to be honest. I skim them, but
Hmm.
I don't have time to answer them all. So,
Sure.
hands up to the atheists who have the time to do that.
Sure.
I want to say, like, the point of my channel is not to make people stop being Christians. I guess I think it's important for me to say that because, like I said, my husband's a Christian, and I'm not trying to change him. It's more just like beliefs. Why do you believe things? Do you have good reasons for it, and are your beliefs causing harm? That's more of the message I'm trying to share.
Hmm. Well,
Right.
well, it sounds like you're sending that message out, and also you're living that life as evidenced by giving your kidney and, just being a good human.
I'm trying. I'm always trying to get better. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
I think
great.
this world is it's awful for a lot of people. And I think maybe we don't always understand it because we live, I live a pretty cushy life. I'm not like rich, but I definitely don't live in poverty. And I think sometimes it's hard for us to understand that life is terrible for a lot of people. I mean, I can't even imagine being like a gay woman in the Middle East. Like every
Mhm.
day would be terrifying. And then we've got wars going on, and I just think it helps to get out of your head and realize that other people have different situations and to be passionate about
Well, this has been 60 minutes with Satan instead of 60 seconds. So we appreciate your extended time today to explain your viewpoints and share your perspective. We'd love to ask our audience members if they think 60 Seconds with Satan has broken a stereotype for them and changed their opinion at all, or have they reinforced it? Please drop a comment below. Let us know what you think. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our new channel.
Yeah, and where can people find you if they want to see your content?
on TikTok at 60 Seconds with Satan. That's where you can find me.
Great.
All right.
Thank-
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.